This is the new Impulse 500 from Hercules. It's called the DJControl Impulse 500, and it is a kind of grown-up controller for Hercules. They have built something that's bigger, more substantial, and a little bit more serious than anything we've seen from them in the past. It also works with both Serato and their own DJUCED software, and it has some unique features. So in this review, I'm going to look at the controller, what it's got, how it works. We're going to have a little look at how it works with all those three pieces of software. And the reason I say there are three is that it comes with Serato DJ Lite. And if you want, you can upgrade to Serato DJ Pro, or you get to use DJUCED, which is the software Hercules have developed themselves, which is one package. You get the full package with this controller. And we're going to look at who it's for, who might go for this rather than one of the other budget controllers, because it is quite a budget controller. It comes in at under $300 euros and pounds. So while not the cheapest on the market, it's certainly not up there with some of the mid-range or more expensive devices. And by the end of it, you should have a very good idea whether this is the controller for you. I'll tell you what I like and don't like about it, and you'll have a much better picture of it. Okay, before we start, if you enjoy this, please do like, follow and share, click notifications on YouTube to be notified when we do more like this, and show our posts first on Facebook, which means again you'll be notified as soon as we post new stuff just like this. Right, are you ready to go? Let's get stuck in. So this is rather a substantial controller. It's got feet underneath it. Take a look at those. And lights. So the whole thing has got a glow that goes on when you are DJing with it. Underneath, not so clear in a studio like this, but trust me, it glows. So it's higher than pretty much anything else, which is a unique point right off the bat. It's only a 2-deck controller, but it's quite big for that. So the jog wheels are about 5.5 inches at the base, about 4.5 inches at the top, which are big. They're not as big as some. For instance, the new Mix Track, I think, are slightly bigger than this, the new Mix Track FX controllers. But these jog wheels are absolutely fine. They feel good. They're nicely weighted. No complaints about the jog wheels at all. The layout is very modern. The 2 decks are kind of the same. There's no mirror image thing going on, where on older controllers you sometimes had the pitch faders out here for both decks. That's kind of gone. This is all very modern layout. The mixer has got a proper metal plate on the top of it. You know, at this price, that's really nice. And the inputs and outputs are pretty special as well. So you've got inputs for 2 auxiliaries. They're only controlled by 1 volume control, but you can plug 2 things in around the back. So you have the RCA and the mini jack input. So you could have 2 things permanently plugged in there to play. They actually have a filter on the auxiliary input. Again, a unique feature. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So you could filter in your phone when your computer crashes and you've got to get a backup source in quickly. But probably more useful if you've got another DJ plugged in the back and you're DJing kind of through the same unit, you could use the filter for that person. There's a balanced microphone input, and the microphone has got not only a volume, but a high and low volume, high and low EQ, which again is pretty cool, especially at this price point. Output wise, there are 2 sets of outputs. There's unbalanced RCAs and unbalanced 1/4 inch jacks, which is strange. You'd expect those to be balanced, but hey, you've got the 2 outputs, which would be especially useful if you're using this for streaming, because you could have your streaming interface plugged into one of them and your speakers plugged into the other, saving you needing an external mixer or kind of cumbersome and not ideal splitter cables and all that kind of stuff. So top marks to that. There's a Kensington lock around the back as well, with a little rubber grommet to stop you getting dust and stuff in it, which I liked, and the usual computer connections and so on. 1/4 and 1/8 inch headphones to plug in any kind of headphones. So reasonably well specified for this kind of price point for the inputs and outputs there. Obviously you can't plug a pair of CDs or a pair of record decks or anything like that in. It is a software controller. The auxiliaries are just kind of extras, but as far as that kind of setup goes, it's pretty generously proportioned. Right, okay, let's have a tour of the top of the unit. So starting with a deck. So the jog wheel, as spoken about, let's actually get a track loaded. I've got Serato DJ Lite here, which is the first software we're going to look at. And then we'll look at the other softwares as well that this comes with, or with compatibility with at least. So, so I've loaded a track onto this deck here. So that is now playing through there. The jog wheel feels really nice. No real complaints about that. nicely weighted, nice surface with kind of grooves on it. It's got a vinyl button here, so you can turn that off and the whole jog wheel becomes a nudge. We'll turn it on and it works in that kind of scratch mode there. When the deck's paused, it will always be like that, whether that's turned on or off, because the idea is you're wanting to look around and find a place to start the track playing from. So that's very standard behavior for a jog wheel, but it's nice. Jog wheel is good. So we have our looping controls here. This is auto loop. I can loop, halve the loop, double the loop, and so on using the auto loop. And then you have manual looping as well, which is really nice. So I can set a manual loop here, in and out. And then I can use the jog wheel to adjust the in and out points as a manual loop by pressing the in or out button and moving the wheel to adjust that point. Again, that's a really nice feature. It's nice to see fully featured looping controls there. A lot of controllers skip that function. Okay, so the pads on Serato DJ Lite, they're pretty limited. You get your hot cues, which is pretty standard stuff. Let's just get out of that loop. Get your hot cues that you can set and jump back to. They're full RGB pads, which is really, really nice. Again, at this price point, you don't often expect to see that. You only get 4 pads on Serato DJ Lite. The bottom 4 do something else, which I'll show you in a second. Notice that the buttons, when you press them, have got a really nice little triangle at the bottom to tell you it's lit. This hot cue has got a lit 1. If I switch to loop, now we've got a lit 2. So we get manual looping here, a bit like the manual looping I showed you a second ago. And that's loop out for there. The third one is automatic looping. Again, like I showed you, this is all just duplicating what's going on here. And the fourth one controls the sampler inside Serato DJ Lite. It's the same in Pro actually. So you can drop your samples in. Gotta love those foghorns. Drop those samples in that you've got loaded on there. So what do the bottom controls do? They're a bit pointless really. You know, this is one of the limitations of Serato DJ Lite, is that you don't get the massive pad control that you get on Serato DJ Pro. So here we have backwards and forwards, scrub back, scrub forwards, and sensor, which is used for bleeping out swear words and so on. They're all right. That's more to do with Serato's cut down Serato DJ Lite software than anything about this controller. But I do like the RGB-ness of these pads. That's really cool. All right then, so the tempo fader is here. It's quite short, but it's actually quite accurate. So this speeds up and slows down your track. The sync button here does what the sync button does, syncs it up to the other deck, so that all works as you would expect. Let's move on to a couple of the features that are a little bit different about this controller, and they're found on the mixer section. So I've already talked you through the fact that you get your quite generous inputs here. One thing I didn't tell you was that these have a ring around them with a light on it, these two here. And when you've got the microphone input or the auxiliary input maybe turned up a little bit too high, these will flash to tell you that you're peaking. So it's almost like separate extra VU meters there. It's really cool. All right then, so on to the main part of the mixer. So each input channel has got gain, high, mid, low, and it's also got a filter control, or is a filter until you press one of these buttons here. So get that track there back to the beginning, and I will show you what I mean. So let's get this track playing. So here is the filter. Doing exactly what a filter does. High pass to the right, low pass to the left. But if you press effects 1, I'll open the effects panel on Serato so you can see, this is now controlling whatever you've got set on the first effect on Serato. That's actually currently set to a filter as well. Doesn't matter if you turn it left or right, it will do exactly the same thing. It will turn that on. The further away from 12 o'clock you get, the more the effect is turned on. The second one controls the second effect in Serato, which I've also got set to a filter right now. But you can set that to anything you want. Let's set it to something a bit more exciting. Set that to an echo. And these are post fader, which means when you turn the fader off, it will finish its thing. And the third one is set to flanger. The fourth one doesn't do anything. There's only 3 effects. on Serato. So I would like to see the fourth one cycle through the beats. It doesn't do anything, so maybe a little improvement that they could make with that there. What's this one doing then? It's flashing away. It's actually giving us bar, beat, 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 bar, beat, 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 red, blue, blue, blue. Tied into the beat grids on the track, it's telling us where the first beat of the bar and where every other beat of the bar are on this flashing thing here. It's quite cool. Otherwise, this is used to select your tracks, load them, press it down to go to the file tree, press it again to go back to the tracks. Very standard, but it's a nice knob. They're all nice actually, all nice quality knobs. These are rubberized, by the way, and they click. You know, some people say, oh, do they click or are they, you know, just like soft? But they are soft, but they click when you press them as well. Some like that, some don't. I think it's fine. I don't really have a preference there. All right then, we've got this weird button here, Beat Match Guide. What's that? Well, let's load up the same track onto the other deck and do a little manual beat mix. Right, let's start both these tracks playing together, and I'll put them both, the BPMs both in the middle. Little light to tell you your BPMs in the middle. So both tracks are now playing together. Notice, by the way, you get a 1 and a 2, telling you which deck you're on. That is really cool. Kind of, for me, makes up for the fact you don't get any spinning light to show you that this deck's working kind of thing. Right, okay, so I've got 2 tracks playing there. They're now currently at the same speed, but they're not quite at the same BPM. And if I turn on Beat Match Guide, these are telling me that. This one is telling me this one, I need to move it this way until that light goes off. And now they're okay again. But if they were out, it would tell me this one needs to go that way or this one needs to go that way. Really useful to teach beat mixing, because when you're learning to beat mix manually, one of the biggest problems is not knowing which track's in front and which track's behind. So that beat mix guide is a really nice thing. And it's good to see it on here. All right then, other features on here, you get slip mode and quantize, but neither of them work on Serato DJ Lite. It just gives you a little warning that says, try Serato DJ Pro. And so they're just kind of like useless on this particular piece of software. The assistant button doesn't do anything other than turn on or off autoplay on Serato DJ Lite. I'll show you what that does when we look at the next piece of software. The only thing that I think is weird is the way the effects are implemented here, but actually, it's all right. It's just the fact that turning that either way when you've got an effect on does the same thing, and I'm not used to seeing that on a filter knob. So I wasn't too sure about that. And the other feature, actually, I forgot to tell you, was this little knob here, this little button here, which decides whether the crossfader is off, set to scratch, or set to mixing, using it as a, you know, if you were doing long house mixes, you'd want to have that smoothness in the crossfader. Okay. Time to move over to have a look at the next piece of software, which is the one provided with it, DJUCED. It really isn't bad software. We've watched DJUCED develop over the years into something which is now fully featured and a good rival to all the big packages. Tiny compared to Serato and Traktor and Rekordbox and Virtual DJ, but nonetheless it does everything. It's in the box. So it's a good alternative to using the very stripped down Serato DJ Lite if you don't want to upgrade to Serato DJ Pro. We'll look at Pro in a minute. So just very quickly, some of the differences. So the way the effects work on this is slightly different. So these are, when these are off, you get filter. When these are on, you get an effect plus filter. So you're getting an echo there, with a high pass and a low pass filter. You're getting a flanger or phaser. A gate plus filter. And a reverb plus filter. So slightly different mappings going on there for these. Down here, we have hot cues, all 8, auto loop, we have slicer, and a couple of others I liked. I really like, let's turn the slicer off. I really like the pitch play. Which you can use to get those kind of tone play effects that you see battle DJs using, and They go down as well. Nice to have that in the software. One or two other things, there is some effects, so you can turn on and off the effects on the screen. Here, the reverb effect, peak filter, flanger, and you can also change the effects, cycle through them by pressing these. So this is now set to gate. So nice to see that effects implementation there because it's missing from here. So quite a lot of effects on here compared to Serato as well. So let's look at the energy level feature. You hold this down and it gives you a color. Blue is very danceable, and then down here, red, hand slipped off it there, is more chill out. Presumably colors in the middle, or somewhere in the middle. And what happens on the screen is the assistant alters the tunes it's recommending that you play based upon the color that you've chosen. And so when you've got auto mix set, this will actually pick the next song to play that way as well. I find it very, very gimmicky. I want to choose the next song I play. I don't want the software deciding the energy level and helping me in that way, but you might find that useful. It's certainly something unique about the unit. And it's nice to see they're thinking about beginners all the way through this with the beta lines, which work in exactly the same way as well. That's DJUCED. It's good. It's got far more functionality than the Serato DJ Lite, but of course the equivalent in the Serato family is Serato DJ Pro. So let's have a quick look at how this works with Serato DJ Pro. So now your slip and quantize work because they're part of the spec. Interestingly, the beat guide doesn't work. Presumably Serato and Hercules Sync, if you're using Pro software, you don't need a beat guide. All the looping functions, everything else works exactly as it does on Serato DJ Lite, although with the loops you can go down to smaller loop values, and Serato DJ Lite has a limitation there. Let's have a quick look at what the pads do. So now we have the full cues. Got manual looping, and I can adjust the in and out points of the manual loop by holding down the loop. Again, just the same as it happens up here, and as we've seen before, get out of the loop there. There's a slicer now, you don't get on Serato DJ Lite. And the good old sampler is still there. Now down on the other controls, we've got some quite interesting stuff as on DJUCED. So here we've got our pitch play. We have our instant looping or loop roll. Now these here I'll show you on the next button, so they stay the same for the next one. So let's move over to the next one, shift and there to get to mode 7 because there's 8 modes of course. They're still here, I'll tell you what those do in a minute, but this is just the same as instant looping but it locks on. These are your loop jump, beat jump, that's the word I'm looking for, beat jump. So these are going to jump backwards and forwards in the track based upon the value you set by moving up and down through the values with these. I'm now jumping backwards and forwards by a large amount in the track. I can reduce it and do it by a smaller amount. Beat jump's really useful. So those are in the bottom buttons here. You can turn that on and off actually in the Serato config. And then this one here, which I'm not going to get into now, lets you do all your beat gridding. So you can actually beat grid the tracks on the fly in Serato DJ Pro here. But basically, when you upgrade to Serato DJ Pro, you're getting the full version of Serato, and you're going to want to do that. So you'll end up using this controller with either the full version of DJUCED that comes with it, or Serato DJ Pro, having paid for an upgrade. So what do I think of it? For the money, you're getting a lot of controller here. It's not the cheapest budget controller if you like, but then again, it's built really nicely. Metal plate, large. I love the feet. I love the lights underneath. You can't see them now, but trust me, they're there. And they give it a nice glow when you're DJing with it. It just looks cool. It looks a lot more expensive than it is. And when I was plugging it all in, I was looking for the power supply because I thought, well, it's got to have a power supply on it because it looks like the kind of controller that won't be, you know, only powered from the computer. There's kind of too much going on. That is a downside because it's only taking its power from the computer. The LEDs are a bit dim, for instance, hard to see in daylight, but you know, there's going to be compromises, especially at this price point. I liked some of the unique features. The inputs mic and auxiliary with their peak meter, the filter on the auxiliary, the EQ on the mic, kind of unheard of at this level. Lots of inputs around the back. You could have 2 auxiliaries plugged in through this, as well as your microphone. The 2 outputs on the back are nice, although one of them being unbalanced when it looks like it's going to be balanced was a little bit weird. Some of the features here to help DJs learn the craft. The beat align is nice, the way it flashes the beat up here and gives you the energy level up here depending on what software you're using. This implementation of effects on measure, I don't think it's too bad. It's different whether you're using it with Serato or with their own software, but actually, because you've got the pad effects on DJUCED, it's actually quite powerful having those filter effects here. And on Serato, once you get used to the fact that whether you turn it left or right, you're going to get the effect turning more on. It's like the same in both directions. It's actually quite cool, and it's actually more powerful in one way than the effects implementations on some other controllers at this price point, like the Mixtrack FX controllers, where you can't even change what effects you're controlling. At least you can change the effects in Serato that you're controlling there. So what else about this? The choice of software is a big thing. You're getting a fully featured piece of software in DJUCED in the box, which at this price point is very, very good. The ability to stream out from DJUCED was something I loved. If you want to do DJ sets and record directly to SoundCloud or Mixcloud by streaming that right up to their servers, you can do it. I'd like to have seen RTMP there as well, so you can choose where you're pushing it out to. But hey, I didn't test that, by the way, but I saw it and I'm guessing it works. And because you get 2 pieces of software in the box, you actually get quite a large choice of streaming services, because Serato has Tidal and SoundCloud, and because DJUCED has Beatport and Beatsource Link, as well as Qobuz. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. You know, you've got a big choice as a beginner of systems that will let you DJ straight away without having to have any music. And especially because the assistant button in DJUCED also works on the streaming services. So you can literally be playing from a streaming service, press that button and it'll give you a list of tracks that you could try playing next. This is all great stuff for a beginner. What I didn't like then, as I mentioned, the unbalanced effects are the unbalanced output's a little bit strange. The effects implementation, not everyone is going to like that. And there are a few things missing from the unit that you might miss as well. There's no hardware control for key lock, there's no hardware control for key sync, and there's no hardware control for changing the range to the tempo fader as well. All things that you might expect to see on a controller like this. But on balance, you're getting a lot for your money. The size of it, the RGB pads, some of the features, 2 pieces of software in the box. It's actually really, really good at the price point. Hercules' most serious controller to date. So that is our video review of this. If you'd like a more in-depth review, as always, we have the Digital DJ Tips written review, the link for which is underneath. And at the time of recording this, in June 2020, this is due in the shops imminently, I think July 2020, if you're watching this early on in the life of the video. €299 euros and pounds, and dollars 279 UK pounds. If you've liked this Hercules DJUCED review, please do like, follow and share. And all that's left for me to say is get good, get out there and make the moments. And I'll see you again very soon.